be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Welcome, everybody. Let me close this here. Hope everyone's doing okay. Welcome to the Woke Poly Market Studios, indeed. Derry Bennett, welcome. John Lithium, welcome. Laverne Cox Transcended book and its audiobook is out right now. Read it and enjoy it. Thank you. Whoopi Goldberg defends Elliot Page role in Odyssey movie. I didn't actually see the Odyssey movie. Lies LTD. Wrong account. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe if you switch to your other alt account, that would work. Welcome. Ladybug, welcome. Alright, folks, we got a lot of stuff to go through. Not a lot of time. A lot of stuff, little time. Let's just get started, folks. If you want to support the channel directly, check out all the links there. Check out the merch store. Hit the exclamation mark tip. Join the Discord, folks. And check out my show on this space every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And subscribe. One of the best ways of supporting the channel is to spread the word. Spread the word. So spread the word, folks. It really does help us out. Appreciate it. I'll see the Odyssey when it gets to streaming. I'm watching a 3-hour movie in the theaters. It's really that long? Jesus. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's a lot. Been playing the new Halo. Campaign Evolved. I'm having a blast. Going back to 2001. Not gonna lie, the launch was a bit buggy. I will I mean, I haven't sat down and really played it, but the launch on these things on PC has been buggy. They've done some updates, and it seems to have fixed a lot of the problems, but we'll see. We will see. It looks good, though. It looks great, though. The Odyssey movie, that looks fantastic. I've seen several commercials for it. Don't know how good it is in substance, but I mean, I'm willing to give it a try when it does come to streaming, that's for sure. Alright, folks.
So they're going to let us.
Oh, looks like it dropped a little bit. I'll give it a second. Folks, refresh if you need to. I'll start over.
The success in some circles of these DSA candidates should be a red alert for the Democratic Party.
They better speak truth to its most extreme base, or they're going to let a small faction of radicals drive more people toward Donald Trump.
There is a small group of far-left extremists gaining influence.
Yeah, so if there is a contingent of left-wing people pushing people towards Donald Trump, then they are not leftists. What leftist group? What leftist group is going around pushing people to Donald Trump? This makes zero sense. This makes zero sense. Bonzilla, welcome. It's been a minute. Good to see you. Good to see you too. If there's left-leaning people that are pushing people towards fascism, then they're by definition not leftists. So that is ridiculous on its face. That is ridiculous. Socialist nightmare.
Socialists who now have a chokehold all over the Democratic Party.
First of all, that's not even true. Because if it was true, we'd be in a much better position, let me tell you. If there was actually a socialist chokehold on the Democratic Party, we wouldn't be having these problems, okay?
Is very, very scary. At this point, a majority of the governing board is controlled by people who are explicitly communist.
They attach themselves to popular causes. They take real concerns about healthcare, housing, police misconduct, and use them to sell what is actually an authoritarian worldview.
They want to toss out our Constitution, eliminate all checks and balances. They want to concentrate.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think that eliminating the Senate, which is by definition undemocratic, is a more democratic platform. Having the executive branch be subordinate to Congress, which is the legislative branch who legislates and is supposed to represent the people, is more democratic. Amnesty for immigrants is, just the humane thing to do. Defund the Department of War sounds good to me. The Department of Defense. I watched Kyle Clancy clamping David A. Pac-Man down for his right-wing bidding. Love me, I'm a liberal.
Power, control entirely the means of production.
Or you move in this incredibly authoritarian way, right, where you get secret police, people being rounded up and brutalized. And I'm afraid that that's what we're seeing in DSA right now.
Bro. You mean like people getting rounded up now under a fascist government? You mean like that? These people are freaking clowns, man.
These are people who even 10 or 15 years ago would have been relegated to the outer extreme fringes of the Democrat Party.
Over a 10-year period, we saw the organization just become more and more extreme.
10 years ago, when I would interview...
I wish. Okay, I wish. I wish this was happening the way these people think it's happening. The justices of SCOTUS will not be subordinate to Congress in DSA's proposal.
DSA people, socialists, etc. They would say to me very soberly, they would go, listen, David, I'm a socialist, you're not. But our next stops on this bus are the same.
When I say extreme left, I mean really extreme left.
What does that mean, bro? There's no such thing as extreme left in this country. Okay? Like, the extreme left in this country is like Bernie Sanders asking for, like, healthcare. Like, if there is a serious, like... If there is actually a serious, concentration of power by the left, like an actual left-wing, party, organization, political, whatever affiliation, if there was an actual, like, serious concentration of power of, like, a real left, then we wouldn't be in like half of the problems that we would be in right now. They would just face accountability by impeachment for unconstitutional behavior. I mean, like, but like we could do that now. We could technically do that now. There's just no checks and balances right now.
You see it on the position with Israel.
What's been called the Red-Green Alliance, which is definitely a short-term arrangement between Islamic
the position on Israel is not a far-left position. It is just a humanitarian position. Okay? Like, being anti-genocide is not unique to being a radical left-wing position, okay? You, as it turns out, you don't have to be a radical, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Radical leftist, okay? Super leftist to be like, hey, genocide is bad.
Fascism and socialism.
This Islamo communist
Oh god, this guy's a freaking clown.
alliance. I mean, the left should have no fucking no rightful association with the Islamic fucking Guard of Iran.
I regularly get emails and see comments where people.
What are you talking about? What is he going on about? Like, you know that two things can be true at the same time, right? Like, Iran's government is undeniably a authoritarian theocratic state. It does not give Israel and the United States a green light to go and bomb them, regardless of what I feel about their government.
Saying you're with us or against us.
In order for us to be progressives, we now have to believe ideas and support ideas that are completely nuts.
These are people
dressing as Mao.
Piker, you know, in those Mao pajamas.
Can't find a better man. Yeah.
Piker was dressed like Mao.
Was dressed like Mao. Fascinating.
I put together that compilation to showcase the class solidarity between wealthy liberals and wealthy fascists who both feel threatened by the rise of socialism. And if it feels like...
And just like, and it's for, like, obviously, like, the reason why these liberals, these presumably, I'm going to call them liberals, feel threatened by the left is because the left challenges capitalism, whereas they do not. That's it. That's where the line is drawn. They believe, again, that capitalism... it's fine. It works, and it should be continued. While they may not be, fascists themselves, they find themselves in common ground with fascists because of that fundamental belief.
They're more hysterical than ever before. That's because they are. Because they're trying to whip people into a frenzy before Tuesday's primaries, where multiple socialist and socialist-adjacent candidates are going to face off against their establishment opponents, including Abdul El-Sayed, Donovan McKinney, Kyle Blomquist, Shama Sawant, Cory Bush, Hartzell Gray, just to name a few. So if they're able to get you to second-guess your support for these so-called extremists, then maybe they'll convince people to change their votes and stop the dam from bursting for a little bit longer. And listen, I don't blame them for being afraid, because the success of 3 Mamdani-backed candidates was an undeniable turning point in American politics. But if socialists get another 3 victories on Tuesday, or possibly 4 or 5, maybe even 6 in a single night, I think that most people would begin to feel like socialism is unstoppable, which could create a bandwagon effect that ultimately seals the fate of the establishment. So it's make or break, which is why centrists and fascists are both shrieking louder than ever before. But regardless of the outcome, it's not going to change the fact that our country right now is at a crossroads. Our political establishment has thoroughly failed us. And they failed us so badly that the only viable form of politics right now is populism, like it or not. The question is, given the choice between right-wing pseudo-populism in the form of fascist demagoguery and left-wing economic populism in the form of class warfare and socialism, which side are we going to choose? Because the choice really does seem binary at this point. The Democratic Party's base is increasingly choosing to side with socialists because they want to stop fascists. And they know that more neoliberal incrementalism isn't going to stave off the threat of fascism. However, some Democratic Party politicians, as well as liberal anti-Trump slop tubers, are temporarily teaming up with the people they supposedly hate the most, which is fascists, to defeat the socialists, because the threat of communism to them is a greater concern than the clear and present danger posed by fascism. But for the record, if you're worried about communism...
Yeah, of course, like, because again, the fundamental problem is, like, if the left wins the argument, right? Like, if the left wins power and shows people that capitalism is fundamentally broken and there is a better alternative, then the whole thing, like, kind of, it's over for them, right? They really can't have that.
While the fascists are in control of the entire country, your brain is broken. Full stop. And I think that AOC put it best when she was asked about the supposed threat of communism in the United States of America.
But isn't there concern that, this
like what
slippery slope
threat
towards
of
socialism
communism
inevitably
like seriously, like what slippery slope towards socialism or communism or whatever? Like, that is what we're dealing with, fascism in front of our faces right now, right here, right now. Like, what left-wing position here is problematic, okay? Like, they can never really articulate what fundamentally is the problem here. What is the problem with moving towards a world where we believe that healthcare is a human right? What problem is there moving towards a society that believes that people should have education just as a baseline, like education, healthcare, housing, food? Like, there's no arguments against it. They just, like, scream socialism, and you're supposed to believe that that's bad. This comes from a this comes from a propagandizing of capitalism. But so, in other words, we treat capitalism as a religion. We treat capitalism as a we treat capitalism as a religion that has to be adhered to and cannot be questioned. It's the same thing, right? Like, if you try to talk to Christians and ask them, like, why is this contradiction or whatever, it's like, oh, well, it is what it is. Well, what's the problem with socialism? It's bad. Never, it doesn't work. Okay? Look at Denmark, happiest place in the world, and they have socialism. We need to keep our eyes open to make sure we don't only reach the social democratic flashpoint. The real problem is that social democrats aren't truly committed to the alternative. Yeah, I agree. Denmark is not socialist or capitalist, it's social welfare. Yeah, well, I mean, yes, but I understand what Bonzilla is saying. Of course, these people would never accept that argument. These people would disingenuously not accept that argument.
Up as full-blown communism. I mean, no?
I'm not concerned about America turning into a communist country in like a year. That is.
Yeah, I wish. I like it. These people are just living in some kind of like fantasy world that they have to constantly like push. Can the YouTube people say my chats? Yes, they can. They can all see your chats.
I think that is. Oh, sorry. I think that's. I think it's very silly.
It is very silly. Because, like, what are you talking about? Why are we talking about socialism or communism when we're living under fascism? First of all, second of all, like, make the argument of where socialism is wrong. Probably not the emotes. Yeah, not really. I don't think the emotes go back and forth between each other, but whatever. I do reckon social democracy would be an improvement. Of course it would. Of course it would. Of course I'm not gonna say no to, like, whatever social programs that's a country that is doing so well, like Denmark would have. Of course.
how impossible it has been to raise the minimum wage in America in 10, 15, 20 years. We can't even raise the minimum wage. Do Republicans really think that this stuff is going to happen? No, they don't. They're trying to scare people because they don't want us talking about the fact that we all have a right to health care in this country. So they want to call it communist, and they want to call everything they don't like communist, because if people actually wake up to
because it's a religion, right? Like, it's basically saying that is of the devil. It's basically saying that is of the devil. This is why you should not be talking about, you know, free healthcare or communism or socialism. Democratic socialists are way less dogmatic than right-wingers if you look at it well, yet right-wingers are labeled as moderate. Some are.
To the fact that their elected officials are screwing them over when they get here, then they're going to realize that they deserve better, and that healthcare as a right isn't crazy. It isn't pie in the sky. They want to call this stuff communist because they don't want us to realize that the rest of the developed world has guaranteed healthcare in this country. So they want to call it communist because they don't want you to know that Germany, Italy, the UK, Canada.
Literally, it's not a controversial thing anymore. Like, it's literally not controversial at all to have like a social welfare state to provide healthcare for people. Like, it's not, this isn't like a socialism thing either. Seriously. It really isn't. Oh. Reactionary politics is a religion.
Everybody else has it better than us, and we spend the most amount of money for the worst care in the modern developed world.
And of course, she's 100% right. If we can't even raise the fucking minimum wage in this country, I don't think that communism is necessarily right around the corner. Call me crazy, but I just feel like that doesn't seem plausible in the...
Look, listen, all I know is that capitalism isn't working, and Marxist analysis of why capitalism isn't working and hasn't been working and is fundamentally built this way, it makes sense. It just does. It just makes sense. The Marxist analysis of capitalism makes sense and has been borne out just simply by living through it IRL. Did you read what a kangaroo court is? Yes, I've read what a kangaroo court is.
Near future. Hell, I'm skeptical about whether or not basic social democracy is even possible in this country in the next 100 years, given how fucked up and regressive our political system is. But it behooves wealthy people to get poor people to think that socialism is a threat to them too, because getting poor people to think that they could be the next Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk helps to reinforce this idea that the rigged capitalist economy...
Yeah, this religion, it helps reinforce the religion, right?
Should never change, seeing as how it could one day benefit them too.
Which
as George Carlin put it,
it never does, and it never will, because their interests are fundamentally opposed. A capitalist interest and a worker interest are completely diametrically opposed, or whatever the term is. I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking. They are completely to one side of each other. There is not a world where a capitalist there's not a world where a capitalist is going to be pro-worker. It's just not. They're not interested. They can't be interested in being pro-worker. Marxian analysis of it has been correct all along. Yep. I'm actually a temporarily disadvantaged billionaire, so they're right. True. We all are. Don't worry. All you have to do is work hard, okay? We're all temporarily disadvantaged billionaires. It'll be all right.
It's called the American Dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. And if the peasants actually started to wake up and realize that they've been lied to about capitalism all these years, then they might start demanding more. They might start calling for a fair and equitable system, which the elites don't want because they monetarily benefit from the exploitative capitalist system. Now, having said that, I don't fault Americans who feel skeptical or ambivalent towards socialism because it takes years to undo the capitalist brainwashing that we've all been subjected to. But I want to set the record straight. The reason why their go-to method of attack against socialism is always fear-mongering is because, as AOC said, they don't want to address the merits of the arguments that the socialists are making because they would lose every single time. It's easier to just lie and get you to equate socialism with authoritarianism so that way you don't even bother to learn anything about socialism in the first place. But in actuality, socialism is not inherently authoritarian. To the contrary, socialism is an expansion of democracy, albeit to the workplace. See, if we elect political leaders, then why shouldn't we also elect our bosses? If we value freedom of speech, why should we allow tyrannical employers to dictate what we say in the workplace? Does freedom of speech not also
I just need the AI to build out to finish my so my bootstraps will actually work. Exactly. No universe do capitalists care about anyone but themselves and their ilk. Correct. It's because it's just not possible, right? To be a billionaire is to be willing to basically exploit people to the point where you are now like printing money. You fundamentally have an infinite money glitch for all intents and purposes. I mean, just like $1 billion is just 1 billion, just one. Just 1 billion is just absurd. It's obscene. Now think about people that have hundreds of billions. It's just an infinite money glitch. Why will we keep capitalism while we enact social welfare in any case? I don't think you would. Well, social welfare isn't it's not required for capitalism. Social welfare can exist regardless. Infinite money glitch is what I call it to MMT. Yeah, I mean, like, to me, if you have $1 billion, it's just like basically like infinite money, because like you're never gonna spend that. You're never gonna be able to spend that. Your family's never gonna be able to spend that. Your family's like the generation after the generation after the generation is not going to be able to spend that. I mean, it's just an obscene amount of money. Like $1 billion is an obscene amount of money. And we're talking about people that have like hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just obscene.
As well, if not, why? Why should a small handful of executives make life-altering decisions about company policy changes and layoffs without any democratic input from their workers whatsoever? See, Americans have been conditioned to value freedom and liberty, so it is downright hypocritical for the same leaders who taught us to value freedom and liberty to reject—
Hold my beer. Have you heard of Stroh's? No. The money, that money doesn't really exist in reality unless you tax it. But it does, though, right? Like, it does. It exists. It exists in the form of loans that they don't have to pay taxes on, that they just like borrow against their own supposed like assets or whatever, that they continuously do that with whatever the number on the computer says that they're worth, right? It may not actually exist. It's all, you know, zeros and ones, but it does, right? Like, it does exist because obviously, like, these people are buying stuff, right? They're buying yachts, they're buying houses or whatever. So it does exist. They're buying politicians.
Those same ideals in the workplace. It's a discrepancy that they've never addressed. And since they can't just say, well, employers should be able to be tyrannical dictators who aren't going to let you benefit from the fruits of your labor, that makes them sound bad. So they have to lie about socialism and claim that it's inherently authoritarian, when ironically, they're the ones literally arguing for authoritarianism in the workplace by supporting capitalism, because that is what capitalism is. It is authoritarianism. You have no say in your job whatsoever if you don't comply with every single demand of your abusive employer and you don't let them exploit you in perpetuity. You could lose your livelihood. Now, the capitalists would respond to that and argue that you could just find another job. You have the freedom to sell your labor to a better employer. There's nothing stopping.
Which is not true, because like if you have seen the job market out there, every job pays like crap. Every job pays garbage. Every job pays like basically below what you would need to just have everything under one income, right? Like if there wasn't two incomes, right? It would be very it would be very difficult, you know what I mean? I don't think I could fully do it by myself. I mean, maybe if possibly, but it'd be extremely difficult. The point being is the jobs that are available now are garbage. Every CEO is a psychopath. I mean, I can't say that there's a large amount of psychopaths who are CEOs. Thanks to Obama's former VP administration, we tax those buybacks at 1% now. Oh, cool. Stock buybacks are fraud. You're not free to sell your labor to a better employer. There are no better employers. It's probably a better way of saying what I said.
Stopping you from doing that. But that's nothing more than the illusion of choice, because our system incentivizes greed. So finding an employer who won't actually exploit your labor is almost impossible in our late-stage capitalist system. I mean, most companies don't even want their employees to have labor unions because they know that even the smallest shred of power threatens their ability to milk their workers for as much profits as possible. And that greed inevitably seeps into the democratic process, where capitalists then buy off politicians to change the rules to enable even more exploitation in the pursuit of profit maximization. It's why capitalist systems always devolve into fascist regimes, because democracy itself becomes a threat to the capitalist class. Therefore, fascists come along and they reinforce capitalism by force. We're seeing that right now with Donald Trump. Now, that's not to say that communist countries aren't immune from authoritarianism, because that's obviously not the case, unfortunately. But guess what? Most capitalist regimes around the world are also authoritarian regimes, because most countries are capitalist and most countries are also authoritarian. But we only associate socialism with authoritarianism because the ruling class has a vested interest in making us believe that a non-capitalist alternative would be detrimental to us. So they'll point to Cuba and they'll point to Venezuela and say, that's what's in store for America if we go down that same path, while not telling you that it's low-key our fault for those countries' failures, believe it or not. Because you can't say that socialism failed after you've sanctioned socialist countries into oblivion for decades. You can't tell me that authoritarianism is an inevitability in socialist countries when our country's nonstop meddling in socialist countries, particularly in Latin America, in the interest of capital, mind you, caused their leaders to centralize power in autocratic ways in the first place, because they felt like locking down their entire country was the only way that they could thwart imperial meddling from the United States and other countries. That's not a justification for authoritarianism, by the way. It's merely cause and effect. When you have a threat that is external, countries are less likely to be democratic because they feel more insulated and protected from that external threat if they are authoritarian. But that context and nuance is almost always omitted because, again, the most effective way to get working people to continue to support an economic system that's harmful to them is to scare the shit out of them about the alternative. But it's funny that their scare tactics always sound really familiar. Do you ever notice that? So a month ago, I saw this AI-generated picture juxtaposing wealthy socialist leaders feasting.
Sorry. So there was like that guy who was talking about under socialism, you're gonna have like masked secret police, and it's like, bro, have you seen have you seen ICE? Have you seen ICE? When people get more power and money, their brains literally pay less attention to other people, making them worse at reading emotions, more likely to break rules, and much faster to justify acting selfishly. Yup. Mike spitting truth here. Mike is always spitting truth. Facts. That image is actually capitalism. Yep. The far right in Venezuela so reactionary. Chavez couldn't have done it any other way. I mean, I'm not gonna say like I'm not gonna say that like Venezuela is great or anything like that, or Chavez was great. It's just not a verdict on like socialism. It really isn't. Your user is like you're the owner. I'm so confused. So confused.
While citizens were forced to ration half a loaf of bread. And I pointed out that this is literally how Americans are currently living under capitalism. Income and wealth inequality has surpassed Gilded Age levels under capitalism, yet we're supposed to believe that cronyism and corruption are exclusive features to socialist countries. That makes no sense. Give me a break. But that's the thing about these people. They don't want to explain why they think socialism is bad because they always end up describing capitalism.
Right, like that's kind of what I said at the beginning. Like they have no real good argument except like basically you can't stray away from the religion of capitalism.
The compilation that you watched at the beginning of this video, Sean Hannity, of all people, who supports our autocratic president, accused socialists, of all people, of wanting to do what Donald Trump did and get rid of checks and balances and centralized power. And I'm sorry, but you don't get to say that and claim that it's bad if you support Project 2025's implementation of unitary executive theory. So shut the fuck up, Sean Hannity. But if you look at the evidence that he gives, well, let's go to the screenshot. He cites the DSA wanting to eliminate the Senate as well as the presidency and reform the judiciary. He also points to how they're calling for amnesty for immigrants, which is what Ronald Reagan supported, by the way, but he's not going to tell you that. And also defunding the Department of War, which just means that rather than spending $1.5 trillion of our discretionary budget on killing people, what if we spent like $200 billion on the military instead and use the rest of that money to actually feed and educate people? See, I don't think that that's actually very radical. In fact, I think it's common sense given how it's the norm in comparable OECD countries. But they can't just be honest because the goal is to scare, not educate, which is why you see so many of them clutching their pearls at the idea of eliminating the Senate and the presidency.
Well, no, the presidency I don't think was part of eliminating the presidency is not under the USA platform as far as I can tell. People in the USSR didn't live that far well off, but never like the true poverty capitalism causes. Professor Wolf can explain that to you better than me.
In other words,
I mean, like the problems that like the Soviet had, we can also say that capitalism had. It's not really a verdict on socialism.
To think that the DSA is extremist because they favor a unicameral parliamentary system like Canada and many other European countries. Now, listen, there are pros and cons to the presidential and parliamentary systems. I personally prefer a parliamentary system, but I actually don't like that the executive isn't directly elected. But I mean, that's why there are hybrid systems with presidents and prime ministers. We're talking about basic forms of democratic governance that you learn about in Political Science 101. But if you pretend that these changes are actually going to facilitate authoritarianism, then you help sell Americans on this idea that socialism is scary, because think of all these changes. They want to abolish the executive branch that we currently have and replace it with a very common executive branch that we see around the world. It's just outrageous. And listen, to be clear, having a parliamentary system isn't related to socialism at all, but the goal, as you saw, is to attribute all possibly bad things to socialism and all scary and unfamiliar things to socialism. The former DSA member, by the way, that you heard from in that compilation, said with a straight face that he's concerned that the DSA is going to usher in a totalitarian dystopia with secret police that'll kidnap people when the ICE Gestapo is literally fucking doing that right now under capitalism. Like, would it be worse if the socialists did that? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. But this is the level of intellectual honesty.
About socialist realism? I don't know what that is. Abolishing the presidency would be getting rid of the executive presidencies.
See, that you can expect from these people. You stub your toe? Well, blame socialism. That's the level of discourse. You shit your pants? The socialists made you do it. They made you fart and shit your pants. You shouldn't have trusted that fart. Socialists made you do it. They're trying to prime you to associate socialism with all bad things, including terrorism, because since the socialists also think that genocide is bad and they believe that the war with Iran is wrong, then it logically follows that they tacitly support the religious and political aims of the IRGC too, because as you all know, you endorse everything about a particular group of people if you don't think that they should be indiscriminately murdered. Makes total fucking sense. I mean, their level of dishonesty really speaks to how desperate they are. They're trying to throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. But I expect fascists to say anything to stop socialism, because socialists really are the biggest opponents and the strongest opponents
of the United States. Yeah. The Prime Minister of the United States of America.
Their hyper-capitalist fascist ideology, which is why fascists will go out of their way to target and repress socialists and communists. Hitler did it, Pinochet did it, and under NSPM 7, the Trump regime is trying to do the very same thing by designating socialist and socialist-adjacent people as the greatest domestic terror threat in the country by targeting them and labor leaders and even some liberals as potential terror suspects, who, to be clear, are capitalists. If you are a liberal or even a social democrat, you are definitionally a capitalist. So that's why I think it's sad but not surprising to see so many liberals team up with fascists to attack socialists at a time when the fascists are going out of their way to persecute people.
Soviet art policy adopted by Mao that required heroic, realistic depiction of workers, glorifying the party abstraction was banned. Yeah, I'm not in favor of that. Paint whatever you want.
Pose their ideology. Because you're really showing your true colors right now. If during this time, when fascists are controlling everything and they're targeting the left, like if you join that hate campaign against the left, you are showing your whole ass right now. But it's not just, anti-Trump slop tubers like David Pakman who are doing this. In a hit piece published in Politico about Abdul El-Sayed, they quote Democratic lawmakers as well as advocates like Shannon Watts, Fred Gutenberg, and Neera Tanden to also shit on him because Abdul El-Sayed dared to call John Fetterman an ogre, which he is. And the thing about Abdul is that he calls himself a capitalist. He's not even a socialist, but it doesn't matter because his policies still pose a threat to the capital class. If he cancels medical debt and he gets Medicare for All passed, then a for-profit industry stands to lose billions and billions of dollars every single year. They profit off of our pain and suffering, and they desperately want to keep that system intact so they can continue to make money off of our health, which is immoral, but they don't care because they put...
I'm more asking about the phenomena that whether you're left or right, you can still be a douche. Why is that a phenomena? That's just human condition, right? It turns out that you can be a bad person, right? And arrive at politically correct positions, right? And then you just end up being like a piece of crap. It could happen. Humans are humans. Humans are humans, so I don't know if that's like a phenomenon more than it's just people being people. We have to be careful in implementing socialism to leaders, specifically when leaders use noble social causes to centralize total power. The promises usually fade while the power stays permanent, like what happened to the Republic of Congo. Oh, I agree. And then the problem then becomes authoritarianism, not necessarily socialism, right? The problem then becomes authoritarianism. This dude came in here and was trying to unite the working class, successfully did, and now he's just keeping power for himself. Well, the problem here is that he's keeping power for himself, as you point out. Bad policy like socialist realism, right, does it too, obviously. Yeah, but the right specifically makes a entire, like, push for bad policy. Like, the right's underlying entire ideology relies on being, like, the most, like, bigoted, hateful people on the planet. Like, that is the entire, like, bedrock of the right-wing ideology, right? Like, it just, that is the right-wing ideology. It doesn't mean that there can't be left-leaning people or leftists who are bad people. It happens. It happens. I'm just saying, I don't know, like, why that's a phenomenon. It's just the human condition, I guess, or whatever.
But you're still a capitalist, and you don't want workers to own the means of production. You're still going to go into the blender with socialists, which is why it is you basically cutting off your nose to spite your faces to align with fascists to attack the left, because the bigger threat, regardless if you are a liberal or leftist, is fascist.
Yep.
Hence why it's so stupid for liberal slop tubers like David Pakman to legitimize right-wing fear-mongering about socialists, because they view him in the same way that they view us. But the question is, why? Like, why exactly is he doing this?
Capitalism.
And if you listen to his comments on Gavin Newsom's shitty podcast,
it's just capitalism.
It
That's
seems like this.
Like, these people have a fundamental belief that capitalism cannot be disturbed. Capitalism, if done correctly, is the path to freedom, and there cannot be any deviation from that. It's just simple as that. And the left actually presents a legitimate argument against capitalism. So therefore, people like Pac-Man will all of a sudden turn their backs on the left when they pretended to be progressive.
Is purely grievance filled, although I do have my doubts. Nonetheless, let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth first.
I regularly get emails and see comments for people saying, you're with us or against us. It doesn't matter if we agree on universal health care and a few other things. We believe housing should be government owned and people are assigned a house and blah, blah, blah. I go, I don't believe that. Do I think people should be homeless? No. Can I point to things that have been done in St. Louis and in Salt Lake City to just give people housing and how it's actually cheaper than having them on the streets? Yes.
Okay, so then you agree with this is an insane argument. Also, yeah, it kind of is. You're either going to be on the side of fascism or not. You're either going to be on the side of fascism or not. It's very simple. So yeah, it kind of is. You're either with us, meaning the side that's trying to fight fascism, or you're not, because you end up serving fascist interests when you don't directly oppose them, okay? This isn't about David Pakman being leftism's strongest warrior. You know what I mean? I don't care. I don't need David Pakman to be leftism's strongest warrior. I don't need David Pakman to be socialism's greatest warrior. Okay? I need David Pakman to not side with fascists. Heat, how's it going? Welcome. It's capitalism, but Pakman also has resentment against his detractors because he isn't really left enough for the times that we live in. Yep. Until the robots attack. Fake liberal David Pakman is so fake. It's incredible. He's probably a spy from the do-nothing Democrats. I want him arrested and silenced. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
That absolutely, but I'm not a take away private ownerships and then then you're simply not part of the same movement.
Welcome, Looney Tunes. I don't think he even fits into social democracy. I don't know. Like I presume, okay, David Pakman to be on like some sort of like centrist liberal, maybe even center left on some policies like Medicare for all, but I don't consider him to be like a leftist. I don't consider him to be a leftist. He doesn't consider himself to be a leftist. I mean, that's pretty much the end of the conversation. And again, I don't care. Centrist liberal at best, yeah. And I don't care. The problem here is that these people are siding with fascists. It reminds me that Trump isn't saying Democrats anymore. Oof. He's a hardcore Zionist to you.
It's not everybody, but these are some of the conversations I've had. So I feel like the tone of these conversations is very different today than it was 8-10 years ago.
So in his view, DSA leftists are much more hardline than they were before.
We were living in a slightly 8 to 10 years ago, you know, we would have been able to kind of have different conversations here. But the fascism, the fascism, the consolidation of power is here. Okay, we don't have time to clutch pearls and to hem and haw about the rude socialists screaming at you in the comments because you're actively like supporting like, dude, you're being a piece of crap, all right? And you're not just hurting the left TM, you're hurting everybody. Do you think that, like, the far right, do you think that the fascists consider David Pakman an ally? No. The moment the rubber meets the road, David Pakman is in the camps with the rest of us. The moment the rubber meets the road, that's David Pakman, in this hypothetical world, would also be lumped in with the quote-unquote socialists and communists and Marxists, whatever. It makes no difference to these fascists. And yet he's going around carrying water for them they're not even asking him to do it.
Therefore,
and he's doing it.
They're a threat to the Democratic Party that they have to address. Now, is it possible that David Pakman is experiencing something similar to Anna Kasparian's crash out, where she decided to leave the left after leftists were mean to her on Twitter? I mean, sure, that's possible, right? But I don't think that David Pakman has ever been one to be.
If that's true, then he was never any type of supporter left, any type of progressive whatsoever, even when he was pretending to try to be. It's the same thing. If something like someone on the internet, okay, makes you drop your supposed principles, then maybe you didn't have those principles to begin with. It's not even a purity test. He's not even willing to push the movement forward with us. David Pakman is only a puppet for the Democrats. Hell, there's even a photo with him and Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, sure. But because he's a centrist, right? He's a liberal. He's liberal. That's basically it. He was never progressive. He's a left liberal. Yeah, clearly. I mean, he pretended to be. He sold his program as such. I guarantee you that maybe not nowadays, but I would say for a while, and this is just a vibe check, okay, just a vibe check, years ago, his audience was probably more left-wing than he was.
Easily influenced by criticism, because he's had a plethora of dogshit takes over the years about, Bolivia, about Democratic politicians in particular, propping up Richie Torres, a genocidaire. So I don't think that in particular has catalyzed this shift in him. And I'm pretty sure that he was complaining about litmus tests 10 years ago too. So I think that this is another one of those APAC moments from David Pakman where he is deliberately playing dumb.
APAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. IPAC.
Sure, David.
APAC, bro. Come on. In order to get a more social society, you unfortunately have to exert authority, which can work for a while. The problem is you have to keep exerting authority to maintain it because of human-based instinct. Yeah, but I'm sure you can do it in a way that's more palatable, more democratic, you know what I mean? Obviously, you're gonna need a government, he endorsed Bernie Sanders. That's how he fooled me quite well. One really can't tell what Pakman truly believes in because he always adds qualifiers and disclaimers to his statements. True. To be fair, I haven't listened to Pakman in quite a minute, so yeah.
You are so fucking full of shit, and you know it. I think that David knows that the DSA, or leftists in general, they haven't really changed over the last 10 years. It's more that the conditions have changed more specifically. Israel committed a genocide.
Yep.
That's the elephant in the room that he doesn't want to address, and the left opposes that genocide. David Pakman doesn't seem to share that same sympathy, given how he took a picture with the man who perpetrated that genocide against the Palestinian people. And before that, back in October of 2023, David Pakman lambasted Rashida Tlaib for daring to claim that Israel bombed a hospital and suggested that she should take responsibility and delete that tweet. But further into the genocide, after hospital bombings became a routine phenomenon for Israel, David Pakman decided to just never mention the subject.
I don't know why, this was such a sticking point. I mean, I guess these people were just trying to, grasp at straws with the original incident that happened with the hospital about the missile and whether or not it was this or that. Bro, do you know how many hospitals Israel has bombed? I mean, screw the hospitals. Do you know how many, civilians, how many, just straight up blocks of that area have just been reduced to nothing? I never understood that. I just never understood that. And it's not even just like hospitals, other like critical infrastructure, which is a war crime. I mean, like children. This is not even new. Post October 7th, prior to October 7th, this was happening too. Yeah, all of the hospitals. God, how stupid is Pac-Man? He's now asking if he's a right-wing nut. Nobody's saying he's a right-wing nut. That's so dishonest. Like, he's just basically like carrying water unnecessarily for fascists by claiming that, like, you know, the left TM has gone too far or too whatever, and they're whatever the beef is that he claims to be, because fundamentally it's about, in my opinion, capitalism. But whatever, it doesn't mean that necessarily like Pac-Man is now like, you know, a right-wing MAGA fascist. That's not what this means. It means, hey, we're pointing out that you're supporting fascism by carrying water for them unnecessarily, by unnecessarily attacking the left for no reason. He's more invested in covering his left flank than being more aggressive towards the fascists, right? Like going around palling around as fascists and whatnot. Yeah, completely ignoring an ongoing genocide is something you can't completely turn a blind eye on. Thankfully, I only watched Pac-Man for a brief moment and later learned what a shitty person he is, especially with the denial of what Israel did and is doing. Yep.
Again, and his own audience wasn't happy.
Destiny's joining MAGA for sure. I don't know about that.
Angered.
I mean, Destiny is a piece of shit, but I don't know, like, I don't know if he's gonna join MAGA.
By his genocide.
He's like in the same camp. I consider him like in the same camp as Pac-Man, right?
Or lack thereof, because they thought that his progressive values would logically extend to the people of Palestine, but that seemingly wasn't the case. So I think that he's using socialism, if I had to guess, as a synonym for anti-Zionism, because it's much easier to criticize the same people you already don't like under the guise of their economic policies than it is to criticize them directly for opposing a genocide. That's an indefensible position to have. Nobody wants to be on the side of the country committing a genocide, and if you respond in a way that legitimizes or defends it in any way, shape, or form, you're going to get pushback from your own progressive audience. Rightfully so, might I add. And look, I don't know what's in David Pac-Man's heart, but if you listen to more of his conversation with Gavin Newsom, he demonstrates that he's much more savvy than these other liberals who are attacking leftists and socialists. He admits that centrist Democrats do have to do more than just more milquetoast incrementalism to defeat the fascists. So it seems like by his own logic and standards, he should actually be in lockstep with the DSA, at least to shift the Overton window more to the left to get better Democrats to defeat the fascists. But here he is aligning with fascists and coincidentally saying the same thing they're saying.
The problem is he thinks that better Democrats are just like better centrist, okay? Like better positioned Kamala Harris's, okay? That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. He acknowledges the failures, but he doesn't. The lesson was not learned at all.
Extremism that we see from the socialist left. It just, there's a disconnect there, right? But again, like, I don't know
there's a cognitive dissonance there, because again, this clashes with the whole idea, with the whole idea that liberals have that there's capitalism can work. Okay, and anything that threatens that idea is threatening the way their world works, and yeah, I people get defensive about that. I just think it's illogical. You know, if you're wrong, then you're wrong, and you should have some introspection and then try to like correct that, right? Like. And I get that's not unique, you know, to David Pac-Man or to liberals or to whoever. It's not unique to anybody, even myself, right? Everyone falls into this kind of a problem where at some point, it doesn't necessarily mean that no one's immune to this, right? No one's immune to having their worldview shatter, and then they kind of double down on what's on what reality really is, and that makes people think illogically, even though they themselves may not be illogical. He's a party hack. Batman is pinning for third way Democrats that don't really exist. Yup. He supports whatever the DNC establishment pushes forward. The Democratic leadership doesn't want any kind of reform. Yup. And he's fine with that because he believes in capitalism. He believes that there is a way of doing capitalism correctly. He believes there is a way of having a capitalism that is fair. And the left kind of shatters that worldview for him, and it doesn't seem to compute. It doesn't seem to compute.
His heart, but it's hard to believe that angry emails got David Pakman to turn on the entire DSA movement. Having said that, I think he is correct to conflate socialists with anti-Zionists, because even if the two aren't inextricably linked, the same motivations that drive someone towards socialism are the same motivations that also drive people towards anti-Zionism. I, for one, am a socialist because I believe in equity and human rights. And I'm an anti-Zionist because I don't think that you can achieve those democratic ideals under an apartheid ethno-state. But some liberals...
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess, like, the logic may work. But you don't need to be a socialist to see a group of people just getting eradicated and seeing that that's wrong, right? Like seeing a genocide is unambiguously wrong. There's no, it doesn't matter who you are. Most people would look at this, and do look at this if you look at all the polls and whatnot. Most people are watching this and going, this is wrong. This is not okay.
Liberals will oppose the socialist left because of their foreign policy, right? They're going to align with fascists and support them over socialists because they don't agree with their foreign policy. Some are going to oppose them for different reasons, because they threaten their wealth and power. But the underlying reasons why they oppose socialists have the same exact root. Socialists fundamentally threaten the status quo that they all desperately want to protect. But
yeah, I mean, that's what I said. It's capitalism, right? The status quo is capital. What Mike is talking about is capitalism. And the left, the left kind of shatters that idea. The left kind of shatters that idea that there could be a way of making capitalism fair. Because I believe that based on, the analysis of our economic system, it's just not possible. There's no capitalism. There's no capitalism that is fair. It just can't happen. It's by default an unfair, unequal system because someone has to win in capitalism. Someone has to win. And it doesn't matter if you put as many constraints as you want on capitalism. The way the economic system functions, the capital class, the capitalists, the people with a lot of wealth, even if you somehow manage to kind of tamper the wealth down, it's never enough. It's never enough because capitalism demands ever expanding growth, and if you try to cap that, then these people will start trying to organize and buy politicians to bend the rules so that they can continue to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. You have to. It's capitalism. That's how you win the monopoly game, folks. Don't trust social democrats too much. They can be worthy allies. Oh, I'm not discounting that. Of course. This isn't to, like, just to be clear, this isn't to, like, poo-poo any liberals or social democrats who want to fight fascism. We're not talking about those people. We're not talking about the wine moms, okay, making podcasts against fascism, okay? Or the wine moms putting their bodies on the line, protesting in the front lines at ICE facilities, okay? No, of course they're allies. Those folks who want to be against fascism are just default allies. If you want to fight against fascism, we're already there, bro. We're already there. But if you want to be David Pakman and just clutch pearls and bemoan the idea that somebody's upset with you because you just don't get it and you're wrong, and that is not computing, the idea that you're wrong is not computing, then that's a you problem, APAC, man.
Good news is that it's a free country.
They
and they
are
are more
misguided,
than
but they have
welcome
good
to compete
intentions.
with us
Yep.
in democratic primaries and in the marketplace of ideas. But all I ask is that they drop the phony ass bullshit and just be fucking honest about why they actually hate socialists. It's not because we're authoritarian or extremists. They know that. It's because we fundamentally believe that all human beings should be equal in all facets of life, and they don't. They want to uphold the current system of exploitation, inequality, and abuse, and since they look like assholes for just admitting that, they have to cloak their arguments in fear-mongering and concern trolling to make socialists look like we're the bad guys. But don't let them bullshit you. The only people who should actually be afraid of socialists are the oligarchs who want to continue to hoard wealth at the expense of everyone else.
Beta! That's so funny. Corporations have to make profits for shareholders. If they do not, they are fired or even taken to court. Yes, they have a fiduciary responsibility. A CEO cannot alter the system unless they own the private company. Yes. TLDR, so capitalism sucks. And it's scientifically proven CEOs are psychos. No, I would say it's reversed. Does that make sense, Bruno? I would say it's the reverse. People who tend to have like psychopathy tendencies tend to be either like CEOs. There's like two or three different like job positions that they gyrate to, and CEOs are like at the top of that list. So it's actually the opposite. Sociopaths and psychopaths tend to gravitate towards certain jobs. Tropical ding dong. Psychopaths are CEOs. Yes. Yes, in other words, having elements of psychopathy or sociopathy, you are more likely to choose career paths. You are more likely to choose career paths that would lead you, to like, for example, being a CEO. They don't necessarily need to be psychopaths; they just need to be ruthless. Yep. Sociopaths are unfit to be CEOs, though. I mean, not really. Sociopaths literally are perfect for CEOs. Mic drop. A sociopath can't establish basic social connection. Exactly. Exactly. So a CEO firing, say, tens of thousands of workers is perfectly content doing so because they have they don't care. It's not really, it doesn't matter to them. It literally does not matter to them. Someone who's at the top of a multi-billion-dollar company that fires like, I don't know, tens of thousands of people, in one shot, just kind of, it doesn't matter. Capitalism has put these sick-minded 1% of people to have all this power. Yep, I wouldn't work for a sociopath CEO. I had to break it to you, bro. Most of us do. Going out to door knock for Jason Liang this afternoon. Big drama in Little Honolulu. I don't know if it's made the national news yet, but we're having election drama in Honolulu's 4th district. Yeesh. Sociopaths behave too awkwardly, and they're extremely violent. That's not true at all. That's not necessarily true. But what more? But that's not necessarily true. They can be a bit awkward. But yeah, it's mostly the ability to just kind of be able to do things without having like that emotional, computation going on. Like I said, they can literally fire thousands of people and just have zero qualms about it. Zero. I mean, like, literally, does this not describe a CEO? Like, to the T? I know this is kind of like a AI overview, but like, right, in large corporations, most people do not interact with CEOs. Yep. I mean, does this not sound like a CEO to you? It sounds like a CEO to me. This sounds like a perfect description of a CEO. Like, if you just kind of cover everything up, if I just like started reading this out, it would sound like it would sound like Elon Musk. It would sound like Mark Zuckerberg. It would sound like Jeff Bezos or Sam Altman. Or what's the Palantir guy? Is it Peter Thiel? No, who owns Palantir? Peter Thiel, right? Yeah, why aren't they a hospital? We're trying to get Jason Liang into top 2 so we can make it out of the primary with a DemSoc on the ballot in November. Dang, that's awesome. Super important. I like 2 and 4, but 1 and 3 I wouldn't work for that. I mean, it's a sociopath. Those are like baseline characteristics of what you would be dealing with. But anyways, hey folks, Tropical Ding Dong is pointing out something here. If you are in Honolulu's 4th district or know somebody there's a Democratic Socialist running in the primary. So please go check that out. Jason Liang is the Democratic Socialist. If you're in the 4th district of that area in Hawaii, check that out, folks. I agree, it is a broad coalition of psychopaths, sociopaths. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not using the correct term, but yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? If you're a labor exploiter, that doesn't automatically make you a sociopath. Nope. Not necessarily. Not always. Not always. Alright, folks, we gotta go run through some of these real quick before we get out of here. Thanks, AZ, no problem. I guess we should do this one. TPS status is set to end for Haitian immigrants. Sun has yet to touch the horizon when Farah LaRue returned to her South Florida home at 6 a.m. Dark circle smudged in the thin skin under her eyes as she pulled large trash recycling bin to the curb. A headache banging on the left side of her skull. The Haitian immigrant had just finished her last overnight shift at a hotel. She is among the 300,000 Haitians in the U.S. losing the legal status that has allowed them to live and work in the United States. The temporary protected status was first granted to Haitians after Haiti's devastating 2010 earthquake, because conditions in the country were considered too dangerous for them to return. But last month, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to end these protections, and effectively, they're trying to send people to their deaths. That's essentially what they're trying to do. The ruling has left TPS holders bracing for an uncertain future. It has also rattled South Florida's Haitian community, where LaRue lives and where Haitian immigrants work across the region's healthcare, hospitality, construction, and service industries. In a statement to NPR, the Department of Homeland Security defended its decision to terminate TPS for Haitians, saying conditions in Haiti have improved sufficiently for the return of Haitian nationals. Nope, that's not true. And they know that it's not true. Conditions have not improved in any way to make the argument that it is safe for these folks to return home. It's just not true. The agency also said that TPS was never intended to be a de facto asylum program, and the temporary protections cannot become permanent by default. No one's saying they are, but currently the situation in Haiti is not safe. And it hasn't been for a while. LaRue has lived in the U.S. for roughly 2 decades. She said she hasn't been able to sleep, sitting at a table in her small room. She glanced at the plaques and awards recognizing her years of service in the community. She had run out of wall space to hang them, so she spilled across the table. I can tell you that I feel empty, like I'm living a nightmare. Her refrigerator and cupboards are stocked with food because she fears leaving home and being arrested by ICE. A sheet of white paper covers a small glass panel in her front door because she's afraid ICE would show up to her home. She's memorized her attorney's phone number in case she is detained. Scary stuff. The fact that people feel the need to live like this is pretty indicative of how screwed up the situation is here. I can't imagine that she's alone in this feeling. Haiti has no president and no prime minister. Yep. LaRue works 2 jobs, including running her own communications business. She has paused both plans to live off her savings while applying for asylum. Fears that returning to Haiti would amount to a death sentence because she has publicly criticized the country's government. Yep. If I don't get mistreated by ICE at the detention center, I may be killed in Haiti. My blood will be on Trump's hands. Yep. Just like I mentioned this yesterday on this Spaces stream. Just like yesterday, we talked about a Guatemalan couple who were deported. The husband was deported, then the wife and child were self-deported back to Guatemala, and within weeks they were both dead, and the child of 14 months was left starving. Last time I checked, the child was still alive, but now they are orphaned and their parents are dead because the Trump administration killed them. They literally sent them to their deaths back to Guatemala. So yes, if in the same situation, if this woman, who is not only just like a business owner but a hardworking person, gets sent back to Haiti and she dies, this absolutely will be on this administration. This administration would have killed her. Anguish replaced anger as she considered this possibility. Tears traced the terrain of her face, curving around the high mountains of her cheekbones, pulling at her chin. They always treat us like we're nothing, said LaRue. Our life has no value. Correct. Under this white supremacist ideology, that is 100% correct. It's actually a war crime according to the Geneva Convention. Whatever. I mean, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're just doing these things. We're just sending people to their deaths, knowingly, because the situation is not safe. And who cares? I mean, we literally kidnapped the country's president. We're currently bombing another country. There is no rule of law happening here. Oh, I agree. I think if an administrative action results in the death, in the death or murder of someone, it should be treated like a RICO case, and all parties involved in the administration should be held accountable. I agree. In a just world, in a normal and sane world, that's exactly how things would operate. That's exactly, if you intentionally make policies that are leading to a certain outcome, then it's not a mistake, right? It's not a mistake. Like, to say that a country like, for example, Haiti is sufficiently, what's the word that they used? The conditions have improved sufficiently to support the return of these people. That is a flat out lie, and they know it. Denying assistance to refugees is a war crime, especially if the recipient state is legally in custody of them. Yep. I mean, like I said, none of this, the rule of law is not really in effect. Not really. Her fears echo those of many across Florida, home to roughly 500,000 people of Haitian descent. There are 158,000 Haitian TPS holders in South Florida, according to the recent fact sheet from FWD.US, Undocu Black Network, and the Haitian Bridge Alliance. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava warned that ending TPS would ripple far beyond the regional Haitian community. At a news conference last week, she said Haitian TPS holders have become an integral part of South Florida's business and communities. Determination of temporary protected status for Haitians is a heartbreaking and unnecessary decision. This decision will separate families, hurt our workforce, and weaken our economy. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Soul Life, welcome. YouTube showed me the damn vertical stream again. I mean, you should take it up with YouTube and go yell at YouTube on Twitter. Their labor is absolutely essential for the economy, particularly in specific sectors. I mean, like, look, I get it. I get it, but, like, you know, these are also just, like, human beings, right? Like, man, capitalism has corrupted our freaking mentality, man. Let me tell you. YouTube is treating the vertical stream like default. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because they want that short attention span, you know, shorts, vertical streams, whatever. Vertical streams are a war crime. I'm apologizing that I'm committing the war crime as we speak, but there is a vertical stream. I hate that. Yeah, this is how we think of things, right? Instead of just like thinking about, I failed to like really articulate this yesterday, but yeah, I mean, it's just this idea that like the reason why we want these like Haitian immigrants is not because they're people, it's because they are essential to the economy. That's it. I mean, it's insane if you really start to think about it, and depressing, but maybe we could just kind of think of them as like, I don't know, like people, right? Maybe radical to do so, but the problem here is that people are trying to be sent to their deaths, right? Sending these folks back to Haiti is a de facto death sentence. Never mind the economic argument, and I hate that that's always like part of the thing. And like, let's be honest, like, I've done it too, because immigrants do provide an economic benefit, like, no doubt, this is objectively correct. But if we could just, for 5 seconds, just table that, just table that that thought process, and just like remember that these are people, these are human beings that we're talking about. I clicked the channel icon since it said live and it took me to vertical. You gotta go live differently. Doesn't do that in other channels? I mean, I can't really help that. When I press live, it fires up both at the same time. And then I go back and adjust the shorts title so that people know that there's a shorts one and then there's the regular stream. But I don't have an option to say, if you click on this live, then you will go to the short vertical one, or if you click on this live, it'll go to the normal one. I don't think that's how YouTube works. Refugees, it's a legal obligation to protect them under from their death. Yep, but we don't care. Yeah, I noticed that if you don't make money or part of this economy, then you're not worth anything. Correct. I feel so sorry for those that are retired or disabled. Yep, because that's the exact same argument, right? You know, you hear these people, these ghouls, talk about disability benefits and whatnot. You start to realize that that's what it always fundamentally boils down to. They're beasts instead of people because there's zero empathy on them. Nah, I would say that there's more empathy on animals than well, we are animals, but you know what I'm saying. That's an insult to beasts. But anyways, well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Their labor is absolutely essential for the economy, particularly in specific sectors such as the health sector and the senior care sector here in South Florida, said Paul Christianemphy, a political director for Family Action Network Movement, a national nonprofit that supports low-income families. He estimates that Haitian TPS holders contribute billions of dollars to metro economies, including Miami's. Therefore, the economic impact would be absolutely catastrophic, or, you know, the humanitarian impact, but whatever. That's secondary, I suppose, in this world. That is separate. That is secondary. Father Reginald Jean Mary, pastor of the Notre Dame de Haiti Catholic Mission in Miami's Little Haiti neighborhood, said uncertainty has spread throughout his congregation. Many Haitian families, he said, are afraid to leave their homes, and attendance at church has dropped sharply. Jean Marie also questioned the federal government's decision to end TPS while the State Department continues to advise U.S. citizens to not travel to Haiti. Right. Haiti is both sufficiently safe for people to return, but also so unsafe that citizens, American citizens, shouldn't travel there. I saw a woman easily in her 70s that could barely walk with the walker working a register at Walmart, and that if the thing is the silver lining is good on Walmart for hiring her. Yes, but also, how effed up are we as a society where we have a woman in her 70s working a freaking register at Walmart? I mean, like, we failed. Default failed as a society. I was gonna ask that yesterday, but I forgot. Yeah, no problem. Default failed as a society where we have a 70-year-old barely able to walk, you know, working the register because presumably it's because she probably has to, right? Presumably because Social Security isn't enough or whatever. So we de facto, like, default failed. F minus. Yeah, and a 42-year-old needing a second job. Yeah. De facto failed as a society. Why are we having people working two jobs just to stay just to stay above board? Like, it's just it's failed. F across the board. Yeah, the travel policy. Yup. Yep. This is an extension to that story, Bruno, because we didn't talk about, like, this is more like an extension of that story. Jean-Marie also questioned the federal government's decision to end TPS while the State Department continues to advise citizens not to travel to Haiti. The department said Haiti has been under a national state of emergency since 2024, but also, again, sufficiently safe enough for people to return. Got it. The same breath you are breathing, that's what Haitians are breathing, Jean-Marie said, by asking them to go back to a place where people are being killed every day that you yourself would never go, neither send your family. How would you ask somebody to do that? This is mean-spirited and there's no humanity into that. Right, because there is none. There is no humanity. That's exactly the point. I'm pretty sure it can be challenged in court. It was. And it was denied, and then the Supreme Court said, nah, actually it's all good. It was challenged in court, and the Supreme Court ultimately said that this is okay. Sending people to their deaths is fine. asked whether it planned targeted immigration enforcement involving Haitian nationals following the expiration of TPS. The Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said the agency conducts law enforcement activities every day across the country, but does not discuss ongoing or future operations. So, in other words, yeah, it's probably coming. DHS General Counsel James Percival, who also defended the administration's decision, saying what we would say now is closing time, which means you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Well, disgusting, man. Disgusting. Disgusting. They don't care. The right wants to make women so desperate, force them into marriage and stay there. The kids will replace the poors and the olds that'll die off from lack of options and safety nets. Yep. Just as capitalism intended. But that's how they think it works. 2 hours after arriving home from her last overnight shift, LaRue stepped into her own backyard. The scent of rain lingered in the grass. Mangoes hung heavy from a nearby tree while roosters crowed. For a moment, she smiled. The scene reminded her of Haiti, the place she so loves. But LaRue also knows that what awaits her there. Armed gangs control much of the country. Kidnappings are widespread, and violence has displaced more than 1 million people. For many Haitians, she said, returning to Haiti is simply not a safe option. All right, folks, we have, I think I have time for one more. I'm betting a lot of this has to do with racism. Yep. I mean, I was going to go over this because I found it amusing. That Trump, after failing to overturn the sexual abuse case, he's now trying to get the defamation, i.e. the lying about that case being tossed. But that's pretty much all that we need to know about this. That Trump is just not letting this go. So the verdict of him being a adjudicated sexual abuser, adjudicated sexual abuser, that stands. And apparently he is now trying to overturn the defamation for lying about that and defaming the victim, Eugene Carroll, trying to get that one overturned. I don't suspect this is going anywhere, but you know. Predator's going to predator. I like the term kangaroo court. It fits him so well, especially Clarence Thomas. Yep, the Heritage Foundation posted a plan to their website a few months ago. It's called something like Saving the Traditional American Family. Jesus. Bonzilla resubscribing. Thank you so much for 19 months. Look at that. Oh, come on. There we go. Trump makes $83 million in a single weekend when he says he's going to delete Iran and then declare peace. Yep. As he does. It's probably better like this. Yep. That's good enough. Last article that we have to go through. The Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to allow new limits on mail ballots because he is trying to destroy whatever semblance. I mean, you know, I hate to use like democracy, but because this is fundamentally not a democratic state. This is not a democratic country. But whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. The Trump administration asked the Supreme Court that on Monday to clear the way for sweeping executive order that would place new major restrictions in mail-in voting for November's midterm elections. The SCOTUS will knock that down. I don't trust the Supreme Court. I don't trust them to uphold the Constitution. I just don't. They've shown time and time again that they are not trustworthy. And time again, they have proven that to be true. They've proven their untrustworthiness. This fake news. Alarico is leading in the polls in Texas. Yup. Alarico's unlikely to unseat Paxton. I don't know. Talarico, out of all the times that we've tried to win a Senate seat in Texas, this has been the most favorable. Not guaranteed, but it's been the most favorable time so far. They have ruled against Trump multiple times, sure. But that doesn't mean that I trust them, because they've also shown that they are arbitrary in their interpretations and don't care. Plain and simple, they just don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about precedent. So I don't trust them. I don't trust that they will always do the right thing, because sometimes they've done the right thing. Does that make sense? All of them, the three liberals, certainly do not believe that. That's true. SCOTUS are followers of the unitary executive theory, the traitor, the conservative justices, you mean. The justices who follow unitary executive theory need to stand trial. I mean, certainly people like Clarence Thomas. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court on Monday to clear the way for a sweeping executive order that would place major new restrictions on mail-in voting for November's midterms. A panel divided on a Massachusetts-based appeals court last week upheld the federal judge's block on the order, finding that it would sow confusion and threaten disenfranchisement of many eligible voters. I mean, like, that's it. Point blank, period. Done. Judges appointed by Joe Biden and George Bush voted for the block, while a Trump appointee, of course, voted against it. In the administration's filing with the High Court, the Justice Department said that the executive order lays out general policies and that agencies have yet to finalize the rules based on it, so it was premature for courts to block it. Yeah, whatever, dude. The Supreme Court is part of a push by President Trump and his allies. The Supreme Court appeal is a part of a push by President Trump and his allies to put fresh limits on voting. Period. Ahead of the pivotal elections where control of both the House and Senate is at stake. Trump claims that voting irregularities are widespread despite a lack of evidence. Yep. They say that DSA will usher in an authoritarian, will have the plainclothes agents on the streets detaining innocent people. Yeah, like we watched earlier. Yeah. You know, like ICE? The president has been pressing the Senate to pass the Save America Act, which is the voter suppression bill that would require voters to prove their citizenship to register and show photo ID when voting. He also gave a primetime television address reiterating debunked claims. Old man yells at cloud about vulnerabilities in the election system and fired members of bipartisan election commissions. Trump has long made false claims that mail-in voting is rife with fraud and blamed it in part for his loss to Biden in the 2020 presidential election. No proof of that. He unsuccessfully demanded that the counting of mail-in ballots be suspended in that contest. In March, Trump issued an executive order that required states to compile lists of eligible voters based on information provided by DHS and the Social Security Administration. The order prohibited the Postal Service from sending mail-in ballots to anyone not on the list. It also requires that mail-in ballots be delivered to voters in secure envelopes with barcodes to facilitate tracking. The order allows the federal government to withhold funding from states that don't comply. They said that's what the Trump regime is doing. They're a bunch of baboons. Don't insult baboons like that, okay? Baboons are cool. That's cheating on mail-in ballot. That's cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. The cheating... I can't read today, sorry. The cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. Legendary cheating. Trump said during a signing ceremony for the order. I think this will help a lot with elections. Zero proof of that. Zero proof of that. I told my boss what's in the Save America Act, and he said, I'm just repeating internet rumor crap. Then he told me how mad his wife was about it, so I told him she probably understands what's in the bill. Oof. Juan got quiet after that. I feel bad for his wife. Jesus. Let me investigate, oh Sleepy Joe. Biden, how those sleepy Biden judges are. They give me no damn credit for the Dow. My social media team is telling me not to post this, but to hell with them. Nearly 24 states and the District of Columbia sued Trump, the Trump administration, soon after the order was issued, arguing that it was unlawful and its true goal was voter suppression. Obviously, they said the lists were likely to miss many eligible voters. The president's latest attempt to interfere with the state's administration of their elections is as unprecedented as it is unconstitutional. Under our Constitution, the president has no authority to restrict voter eligibility or mail voting to lists of voters pre-authorized by the federal government. U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani in Massachusetts issued a summary judgment against the executive order in June, ruling that the president lacked constitutional authority to order changes on how states and local governments administer elections. The Constitution assigns states the primary authority over election administration and gives Congress the ability to set national standards for elections, but the president's role is more circumscribed. Talwani, who was nominated by Barack Obama, also found that the order would present logistical and financial challenges for states. Most were already preparing to issue mail-in ballots for fall elections, and some would have to purchase new envelopes and make other changes to comply with the order. The ruling does not apply to states that were not parties to the lawsuit or elections after November's midterms. The Trump administration did not appeal Talwani's ruling on the legality of the executive order, but on the grounds of whether the plaintiffs had standing to sue. Unbelievable. The injunction is especially indefensible because the agencies are still deliberating on how, if at all, to implement the order. So, like, we're supposed to wait until the last second, right, to determine? Nah, screw that. It's obvious that what the intention is here. The Supreme Court gave the states until Monday to respond to the administration's appeal. The justices could rule after the administration responds to the state's filing. In May, a federal judge in D.C. allowed the executive order to stand in a separate lawsuit issued by the DNC, and voting rights group Judge Carl Nichols ruled that the injunction was premature because the administration was developing guidelines related to that order. So we're going to have to pay attention to that and see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, it's just death by 1,000 rulings, right? Death by 1,000 rulings. Poss likes to drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah, I feel bad for the wife. Seriously. Alright, folks, it's time for me to get out of here. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate your support. You guys are what makes this channel go. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to all the folks who subscribed. And thank you, Bonzilla, for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate that. Thank you all. If you want to support the channel, do all the things and hit all the buttons and all the stuff. Check out the links there. If you want to support the channel directly, check out the merch store, all the things. And join the Discord and check out my show on this space every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And check out this space station every Thursday at 5. Sometimes, if I'm there. Sometimes I'll be there. So check that panel show out every Thursday at 5 p.m. If not, then here. Then we're here. So either way, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Ladybug, for modding the chat. I appreciate all of you guys being here. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I'll be on. I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow at about 5 p.m. Eastern Time. More or less, okay? More or less. We try to be... We try to be there. On time. Take care. You take care. Thank you all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Time to go to CNN. Bye-bye. Hang tight, folks. Trying to get this stuff going. 1 second. Alright, well, I think my thing is not working, so we're just gonna end stream. A better impression than some late night hosts do. Yeah, it's not working, folks. Whatever. It is what it is, folks. I'm trying to rate out, but it's just not. It's not working, so I guess we'll just end stream. Oh, wait, there it goes. There it goes. There it goes. There it goes. Alright, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. It was such a good stream. Thank you all.